Ford sells one of the best trucks in America, pays nearly a 5% dividend, and just beat earnings. So why does this company feel like it's only 1 decade away from becoming irrelevant? Ford has been around since 1903. It survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, a financial crisis. But here's the question that nobody's asking. Can a company that's been around for 120 years survive by just being average? Well, I'm going to break that down in this video, so hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. In this video, I'll be breaking down what is going on with Ford, the numbers, the sales, the earnings, and what's been going on with the EV transition. I do own shares in Ford, and I will be showing you guys what I'm invested in and tell you guys what I think. So I don't know if I want to bore you guys with a company breakdown. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what Ford is. It's a car manufacturing company. They're very well known for their F-150 trucks, which I gotta say is pretty nice. I've driven one before and I like it. It's pretty nice. It's a really nice truck, so that's all I've got to say about it. But if you guys don't know, yes, Ford is a car manufacturing company. It was founded by Henry Ford and a group of 11 investors. They initially invested $28,000 into this company and basically started off with only 10 employees. It was pretty revolutionary, I gotta say. Today, it just operates in 3 segments. There's Ford Blue, Ford Model E, and Ford Pro. Now, let me get into what those are. So, Ford Blue is pretty much the classic side of the business. It's pretty much just the gas-powered and hybrid vehicles. The Ford Model E is the EV side of the company, so the electric vehicles, which hasn't really been popular. It's honestly been bleeding the company for money, so they've been losing a lot of money in that side of the business with nearly $5 billion in losses in the year of 2025. And then there's Ford Pro, which is actually the strongest performer of the 3. It's the commercial segment of the company, so it's the trucks and services for the business, and it had a really high performing revenue of $66 billion. Now here's what's been happening recently. Ford just beat Q1 earnings in 2026 significantly. Adjusted earnings per share came in at 66 cents against a consensus of around 19 cents. Revenue hit $43 billion. That is up 6% from last year. They raised their full year guidance, and that sounds good on paper. But then there's the April US sales, which came down at 14.4% year over year. F-Series sales dropped around 15%. There's a recall on 180,000 vehicles over a loose bolt issue. And then you gotta factor in the rising cost of aluminum, which is hurting the production of the F-150 trucks. So you have that, and then you gotta top it with the electric vehicle division still losing billions. So you've got a company that just had a really strong quarter, but is starting to show some cracks underneath. That tension is exactly what makes this stock worth talking about. All right, let's get into the numbers. The market cap is sitting at around $48 billion. This is one of the most recognizable companies on the planet. $48 billion in market value reflects a business that's established, but not exactly setting the world on fire in terms of growth. Now let's talk about the IPO. Ford went public back in January 1956 at $64.50 per share. At the time, it was one of the most anticipated public offerings in American history. The Ford family had owned the company privately since 1919. The last stock split Ford had was back in 1994, which it's been quite a while. That's 32 years since this company has split. Now, there hasn't been a reverse split ever recorded in history, which is really good because reverse stock splits just means the company is not doing well. So that's good. But the stock right now is trading at $12.35 and it hasn't really gone anywhere. So if you're looking at the IPO price versus today, you might think the stock has gone backwards, but accounting for all of these splits over the decades, the math looks very different. The point is, this stock has had a long and complicated relationship with its own price history. So the 52 range on this is between $9.88 to $14.80 on the high end. There's not an explosive movement on this stock, which honestly tells you that this stock is just pretty average. It's stable, it's predictable, but not really exciting. Now, the all-time high of this stock was somewhere in between $36 to $37 back in 1999, which Ford has not come anywhere near that price. So that's 25 years of the stock sitting well below that price, and it either presents an opportunity or a warning sign depending on how you look at it. The dividend yield is at 5%, and for some investors that might be a turnoff because most generally want to buy a stock with a dividend yield under 2%. I actually put my risk at 5%. I think going under 2% is kind of pointless unless that stock is growing in value, but other than that, you're pretty much not earning much. But 5%, I think it's pretty fair. I don't think there's much risk, but I don't go beyond 5%. But you're getting paid 5% for holding this stock, and honestly, this stock doesn't really dip in value too much. And for me, I think if you're a dividend investor, that number is hard to ignore. Now, beta is at 1.05, which just means that it moves along with the broader market. So if the broader market is down like it was in 2020, Ford will also move down. But it's not a wild ride, not a sleeper either. It just tracks with the market closely. The price to earnings ratio is at 11 to 12, which is actually pretty cheap. For a company generating the kind of revenue that Ford does, that valuation tells you the market is not pricing in much growth. And that's either a buying opportunity or the market telling you something. So now let me tell you guys my position, because I do own shares in this company. So I have 2 shares at an average cost of $5.29. And I know that's not a big position into this company. I honestly got a free stock out of it, and then I just bought another stock. And I'll tell you guys exactly why I don't hold a big position. I honestly think this stock is pretty average, and I've just kind of been ignoring it. I don't think there's any growth. I've been holding it for 6 years now, and there hasn't been any enormous growth where I just dollar cost average into it. But honestly, since it's pretty predictable, I might honestly put more investment into it just to collect the dividend. So my total return on this stock has been $14.12, and if you factor in the dividends that it's been collecting, that's been $7.06. So in total, I made $21.18, and if only I've had more shares, like 100 shares into this, that could actually be a big, massive gain. Now I'm going to give you guys my opinion. I think this stock is just pretty average. It's nothing exciting, but it's also not a bad stock to invest in. It's pretty predictable and stable, so I don't see this stock dipping really low and reverse splitting. And they got a car market, which people always need vehicles, but I am a bit skeptical about the stock in the future, only because with their electric vehicles that they put out, it's not been very popular, and it's honestly just been burning cash for the company, especially for truck drivers. I don't think truck drivers want to drive an electric vehicle, especially the Ford F-150 is one of their most popular trucks. So that's been sort of a disaster, and honestly, the competition that they will be facing in the future with other electric vehicle companies, I definitely think Tesla is going to be really hard to compete with, considering that they're the most popular electric vehicle brand out there. But that's my opinion on it. I don't know if this stock will honestly be competitive in 10 years. That's going to be very interesting to watch, because I don't think they've done anything innovative in the last 10 years. They've just been pushing out their trucks. So I don't know where it will will be in a decade from now, I honestly see it struggling, and we'll see what happens. They could turn this around and become one of the best truck electric vehicles out there, but we'll have to see on that. So I've only had 6 years with this stock, and I've seen it during COVID. That's actually when I bought in, but I honestly kind of just ignored this stock. I don't know why. I should have honestly put more money back then, but I was also in college, so I didn't really have a lot of money to just drop down on the stock. But I really do wish I'd put more investment into this company just because of that 5% dividend yield, and it's steady, and it's also grown since COVID, which was one of the lower periods in my investment journey. All right, is Ford worth the investment? I'll give you guys the full picture, starting with the pros. Ford Pro is the strongest part of the business. It has generated over $66 billion in revenue, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. It's got a commercial subscription, and that segment is performing at a genuinely high level, and it's part of the Ford that gives me the most confidence in the near term. The second pro is that 5% dividend yield, and for a stock that costs only $12 and is pretty steady and stable, I think that's pretty good, honestly. And Ford definitely has the money to back it up. They got nearly $29 billion in cash on their balance sheet. And on top of that, they had a pretty strong Q1 earnings this year. So it seems like they are in a good place, and they're not struggling right now. And now the cons, because this is where things get real. So first con is the electric vehicles. It's pretty much been a disaster. It's been burning cash, and I've already mentioned it in the video, so there's not much to it. I think they could turn it around, but we'll have to wait and see. Right now, it's not very popular, especially amongst truck drivers. Second con is that Ford did have a strong Q1 earnings report, but the sales in April were down, and the F-Series was also down 15%, which is pretty much the backbone of the business. There's also what I've mentioned earlier, the 180,000 recall on their vehicles. That's causing headwinds and costs. And also we got to factor in the rise in aluminum prices, which is hurting the production on the Ford F-150 vehicles. The third con is that this stock has not hit its peak or been anywhere near the peak since 1999, which is over 25 years of underperformance. So I don't know if there's any real growth into this. The entire identity of this stock just leans into the company brand, and that's a concentration risk. If the Ford F-150 just becomes unpopular, and if consumers find another car that they like, that pretty much puts them at risk. The analyst rating on this stock is pretty much heavily on hold. There's not much excitement to buy, but it's also not screaming at us to sell this stock. So with all that factor in, my take on this stock is that I just think it's an average stock. There's not much excitement and also not much volatility. The stock is honestly pretty boring. It doesn't grow much, but it also doesn't lose a lot of value. I think that actually is a bit risky, because if the company's not innovating, then there can be some car startups like Tesla, for example, that can just come in and take over with their innovation. I mean, you've seen this with like Blockbuster. Netflix fulfilled a void and innovated into the future, which put Blockbuster out of business. So honestly, if Ford doesn't think of adapting and innovating, it does put them at risk, and that's why I'm not very excited about buying more shares into this stock, because I just don't see the excitement into buying into it. But I think it's pretty average. I don't think it's a bad stock. I think it's a stock that I don't really pay much attention to, but I am invested in it, so there's that. So that's Ford's story. A 120-year-old American icon, a 5% dividend, and a commercial segment that's genuinely performing. But underneath all of that, there's the electric vehicle losses stacking up, truck sales softening, a stock that hasn't touched an all-time high since 1999, and a company that's been comfortable so long that the hunger just isn't there anymore. The question I keep coming back to isn't whether Ford survives, it's whether it's surviving enough, because the companies that are coming for that truck market aren't interested in being average, and Ford better have an answer to that. As for me, I'm just holding my position. I might honestly buy more more shares into it just to grow the dividend, but that's my play. But I want to hear what you guys think. Drop the comments down below because I do read all of them. And if you guys want to start investing, be sure to check my links down below. If you sign up with Robinhood, you guys can get a free stock worth between $5 and $200 just for signing up. You don't gotta put any money down, you just gotta sign up and you get a free stock. And if you're into crypto, be sure to check out my Coinbase link. You get $10 in free Bitcoin after your first trade of $5 or more. You do have to make an investment on this one, but you do get free money out of it and it's Bitcoin, so be sure to use that if you're interested. It also helps support the channel, and if you got any value out of this, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.